Soon after light, we were aroused from our slumber, and running out to the breastworks, found our entire line in commotion. Infantrymen were carefully examining their muskets, and artillerists were preparing to let slip the dogs of war. Field and staff officers were hurrying to and fro, giving words of encouragement and command to the troops. Generals rode rapidly up and down the lines and with anxious eye awaited the result of the next few moments. Although the morning was unusually cold for the season of the year, and many of us were chilled through from sleeping on the damp ground, yet a heated oppressiveness seemed weighing on one's breast, and the result of anything would be a relief, the painfully anxious anticipation being such a burden. In our front is heard the sound of many voices, even as the rush and roar of many waters. It is the enemy advancing through the woods in our front, and distinctly we can hear their officers giving the words of command and sharing on their men. Our sharpshooters fall back in good order and take position to the left of the fourth gun and about 300 yards in front of our line. These sharpshooters were the 21st Regiment, Virginia Infantry, and were as game a set of soldiery as ever fought. On come the enemy, and plainly we can see them debouching from the woods in our front and amassing their troops to attack the hill on our right. Our guns are quickly trained upon them, and the command fire is given. One by one our guns open upon them, and as the thick blue smoke is blown from them, we can see the deadly Napoleon shot and the unerring 10-pound rifle ball plowing through the serried ranks of the astounded enemy. Vainly do they endeavor to press forward. Again and again we break them, and their officers uselessly dash up and down their lines, endeavoring to hurl them upon our works. The dash has been remorselessly extracted from these gala-dressed, augurs heavy artillerists, taken from the works around Washington to reinforce Grant in their first fight. They are but food for our gunpowder. For 1 hour and a half this kind of fighting continued, and every time the enemy formed for a charge, we shattered their columns with artillery alone. The fourth gun fired slowly and deliberately, averaging 1 shot per minute, as its position was the best on the line and our ammunition in splendid condition. It is presumable that we did find execution. Finally, the enemy, after making another abortive attempt, broke and incontinently fled, leaving us undisturbed masters of the field. Only 3 men in our company were wounded. 2 of them were scarcely hurt, and the other not seriously injured. The enemy also attacked our lines farther to the right, in front of Gordon's and Pegram's brigades, and as with us, the artillery broke their lines, driving them back without the assistance of the infantry. This fight has been most beneficial to us in restoring confidence to our men, for especially on our part of the line, they have become somewhat discouraged, having suffered so severely. If there be any pleasure in fighting, it is when one is gunner of a splendid Napoleon gun, the men working like clockwork and ammunition in splendid order, and no one shooting at you. Such was the fight of today. All journalistic writings are more or less egotistical, and therefore I hope the reader will not consider the writer more so than the generality of fallible humanity when I say that in hearing generals, colonels, captains, lieutenants, and greasy-looking but indisputably brave privates compliment in the highest terms the accuracy of the fire of the fourth gun, my heart beat with the proudest throb of emotion that ever it has felt since the commencement of the war. After the fight, our infantry hung around the powder-begrimed and heated Napoleon, patted it affectionately on the breech and muzzle, and made all manner of queer remarks concerning its effectiveness and accuracy. One strapping-looking fellow sang out to his comrade, "Look, here, Jim, here's our gun. This is the gun we pulled out of the mud there that night." And sure enough, it was the same gun. They ever afterwards claimed an ownership in the fourth gun, 3rd Company. The infantrymen all wanted to see the artillery tricks, as they called the implements, with which we worked the gun, and we had to show them the friction primers, lanyard, priming wire, thumbstall, etc., and also had to explain to them the difference between spherical case shot, shell, and canister. The first-named projectile was used by us nearly altogether today, and being a very destructive missile, inflicted terrible injury upon the enemy. Some of us walked down to the position where the enemy in the morning had been massing his troops for a charge, and their dead and severely wounded being left on the field presented the most horrible sights we ever witnessed. Our infantry had not fired a shot. All the work had been done by artillery. Few men were simply wounded. Nearly all were dead and literally torn into atoms. Some shot through and through by cannonballs, some with arms and legs knocked off, and some with their heads crushed in by the fatal fragments of exploded shell. Horrible, horrible. They left several hundred of their dead in our front, and as it is to be presumed that many were carried off, their loss must have been severe. Our infantry were ordered not to fire until their line of battle got within 200 yards of our breastworks, and as they did not get that near to us, the artillery had it all to themselves. The remaining part of the day was more than usually quiet. General Lee sent us word not only at what time they intended to make the charge, but also what troops would be engaged in it. I think he expected a much heavier fight, for he put the whole of Jackson's old division, much depleted, it is true, to support one detachment of our company, the 4th, and behind that detachment we had 3 lines of breastworks. It is difficult for us to get good drinking water. Oh, for a good mint julep.